I've got to share with what happened at the end, because at the beginning, when we were becoming aware of the space around us, I felt so minute with this big space all around me. But at the end, my body just fell away, and the space within and the space without was the same.
You know, people take LSD for that.
Yes, it's cheaper.
I was in a workshop not long ago, and a woman comes up to me after one of the lessons, and she says, "Jeff, did you ever take LSD?" Yeah, I take LSD. And she says, that lesson, like for me, was like the first time I ever took LSD.
Okay. Well, I've never tried taking LSD.
You what?
I haven't tried.
You haven't tried it. No, but see, this is an important point for us. I believe that we're on the verge of having the Feldenkrais method be one of the major transformational processes in the world. And I believe that as teachers of the Feldenkrais method, that we're learning to work with people in their own transformation. Yeah. And that we have profound advantages in this work relative to the other processes that exist. Not right or wrong in any of the other processes, but to look very carefully at our advantages. We have clear neurophysiological advantages over many of the practices. If people had had the experience that you're talking about after an hour of meditation, they would have thought that they'd achieved nirvana.
That's right. Yes.
Or if they had gone to a Vipassana retreat and killed themselves for 10 days of meditation and came back. And the biggest problem that we have with these lessons like this is that they get thrown away immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't know the value of what we're experiencing. And we can give them up and just immediately go right back into the yammering. Yeah. But the profundity of the quiet in the room during this session, as it went deeper and deeper, extraordinary. Yeah. For me. Yeah. Does anybody else care to share?
Thanks. I always struggle with these breath classes. I always end up tense in my throat afterwards and headachy, and
yeah.
But yet at the end, I could, even though my quality space wasn't like a great quality, I could still sense the tension coming as soon as my center went off to one side. Or
anybody else in a different quality of equanimity?
I kind of similar in the sense with the breathing lessons. I usually when it's a breathing lesson, it's like because I either end up in a panic or like it just quite often hasn't worked for me. But that one, and I've done a lot of the breathing lessons by myself, trying to get over it. But that was the first time where I could actually allow my chest to expand, and it was like, I guess it's similar to what you were saying about this, I don't know, awakening or anything. And I have taken LSD, and it wasn't quite like that. But
the whole process of the dissolution of the ego state and into the sense of
I know what you mean. But it was just this letting go of this side of my chest. Right. For me, was quite profound, because this just holds. And this time, as it was letting go, part of me just didn't want to let go. It was
of course
like, don't. Yeah, no, yes, no. What if you just, no? So it was kind of, I had to keep stopping and then going, okay, just, but eventually it was, I still know that it's holding, but nothing like at the start of the lesson.
The fancy word for what you're talking about is the default mode network.
Okay.
In other words, it's the particular way that we maintain a semblance of ourselves as a sense of safety.
Right.
And anything that goes against that sense of safety is until that sense of safety dissolves, you don't get to have the experience that she's talking about. But we'll do whatever we can to protect our own sense of safety. And when our attentional loops continue to go through the limbic system in such a way that it's built to maintain our sense of safety, the mind and the way that we've been organized is not going to let go of the way that we know ourselves. It's difficult to have the attentional loop go through the prefrontal cortex so that you're involved in the curiosity of it. But when you truly, truly get into the point where the prefrontal cortex and that sense of curiosity and that sense of being in the process of the lesson, it inhibits the limbic system. The limbic system finally can become quiet. But when the limbic system is active, you can't process. And so we're going back and forth in this process of inhibition, of inhibiting the areas of ourselves so that we can come to, out of the patterns that we've known forever, into another sense of potential, another set of internal images that are pre-verbal, that have a set of infinite possibilities that we don't even know how they can manifest. But that's scary to that sense of, I want to maintain how I know myself. And the very nature of this work cuts into that. And we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay. Just occurs to me, I hope I'm on the right track, that what you're saying about the limbic system might be related a bit to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I just really like it because I don't know, are you familiar with it?
Of course.
Okay, so the idea that your physical well-being has primacy over everything else, and it's not until that's satisfied that you can then look at other things. I can't even remember what they are. Things that you like doing and things that you prefer to do. Right. So the limbic system's part of it, but that's what you have to deal with first.
Yeah, we have to take care of all of our survival needs. Look, you answer first, and then I'll.
I was just really intrigued that I could make everything expand, and then all of a sudden I realised I was doing it by rolling the pelvis, and I wasn't moving the ribs or my sternum at all. And once I started to do that, there was quite intense pain. So I thought, no wonder I've been compensating. But just by working with it slowly, it's the first time I've really felt that ease of getting this side of my ribs particularly opened up. So it was wonderful.
So when I say canceling gravity, there's in anything that Moshe says, there's always something that it has to be re-looked at. He says, life without movement is unthinkable. That makes sense biologically. Unless you can move, there's no way you can live. Do you think that's what he's talking about? If you live a life that's compulsive, is that movement? Is that life? Huh? No. So if when we look at the field of gravity, we have inherent within every human being, it's inherent in our nature to learn. Every pore of ourself is built for learning. We come into the field of gravity. And what we learn in the field of gravity, first and foremost, is that we have to survive. And the way that we survive is we're conditioned by gravity. We're conditioned by the very nature of the force of gravity and the way that we have to interact with gravity in such a way that we can start to have our patterns of movement. We're conditioned by gravity in the sense that without gravity, there'd be no reason for anything. That's the long argument that Ida Rolf and Feldenkrais had for years and years and years. Which comes first, structure or function? Rolf would say, unless you teach a person the structure, and change a person's structure, their function won't change. And Feldenkrais would say, if you teach a person to function, their structure will change. Yeah, forever, 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 they argued. And I knew the person that drew the pictures in Ida Rolf's book when she and Moshe were having the arguments. Yeah. And it always came down to the question of gravity, because there are salamanders in caves that have no pigment. And Moshe would ask the question, he asked it in CERN, if there were no light, would we have eyes? Without the necessity to function, there's no reason to have a structure. Now, it's this process, this very process by which in the field of gravity, when we're born into the field of gravity, that we begin to acquire the way we know ourselves. And we acquire the way we know ourselves through our movement. We acquire the way we know ourselves in our culture, in our society, and in our family. And we acquire ourselves relative to all the events that have taken place. And in those events, what we learn is that our sense of well-being is based on what we can produce. Yeah? Either you become a part of the family, you adhere to the family, you get the attention you need, or you do whatever you need to get the attention, or whatever. But the thing is that you still have to acquire a sense of yourself. And this sense of self is absolutely necessary if we're going to survive in the world of gravity. And it doesn't mean taking care of ourselves. Feldenkrais would come up to me, and he'd sit there, and he'd walk by me, and he'd kick me, and he'd go, I take better care of you than you can take care of yourself. And I would say to Moshe, that's not possible. You're 5'8", you're an old man, I'm a black belt, I'm a PhD, I obviously can take better care of myself than you can take care of me. Until I came back to Seattle after I trained with him, and I opened this place, 9,000 square foot building. We had Aikido, Tai Chi, yoga, judo, Feldenkrais, 4 different practitioners, 4 different Feldenkrais practitioners. I was giving 35 lessons a week. I was teaching 7 to 10 classes a week. I was administering the building. I destroyed 2 relationships, and I finally realized I didn't know anything about taking care of myself. I only knew how to do what I knew how to do to give myself a sense of meaning. That's being conditioned by the world. Yeah? That's being conditioned by gravity. Gravity has conditioned us. And this other question, which is to me the most essential question of the Feldenkrais method, is, how do I learn to care for myself? Yeah? Because caring for myself is movement. That's where the life is. If all I know is how to do what I've done historically, then there's no way in the world that it's movement. It's me living out my conditioning. And here we are in this kind of lesson where all of a sudden something dissolves and another complete sets of something opens. Nobody knows, you can't tell what opens. But what opens is possibility. Yeah? And there's a kind of a quiet caring for ourselves that we begin to understand. The lessons in and of themselves invite us to care for ourselves just by the nature of the fact that we ask our own questions of ourselves.
So if you ask the question, do I like conditioning? Do I like what society has suggested I should do or suggests I should produce, or how I function? If you ask that question, the answer is yes.
Of course.
Then what?
It's necessary.
It's necessary for you.
There's nothing wrong with what's happened to us. What's a trauma? A trauma is simply an event in which we don't have the resources to meet it. Yeah? And when we have the resources and we look back over the thing and we say, oh, well, I'm not so bad. But I can't not have the experiences I've had.
No, you can't unhave them.
How can you unhave them?
Don't want to.
Right.
But, okay, so are you saying something about, well, I think you are saying something about the conditioning.
Yeah, I'm saying that if we're unconscious of it and we just live it out, then it's compulsion. But when we learn this process, and the process is this moment when something arises, and to be able to observe it and to inhibit it, because we want our mind to be useful for us rather than just be conditioned for us. We want our mind, we want to have the moment, this unadulterated sense of freedom, as Dennis called it, a moment of unengaged, of unadorned worldly engagement. Yeah.
You may.
For me, it came up that if I can feel the inner space more,
Yes.
I don't have to feel that much the outer space.
No.
And I can choose what I want.
Absolutely.
I can still choose to have the outer space and feel what's around me, and can still be with me.
I think that's a blessing. I think this is where our work really begins to take off. Where when we touch people and we invite people into these questions, it's not so important to me that they move well. It's important to me that they can make this be in the process of these distinctions. This time, the space between acting and being able to attend to what I'm doing, so that I begin to have choice. But it's also very nice for people to be free from the tyranny of the effort that they've known for all their life. So, okay, I ranted. Come here, you help me. Come around, come close, come stand. So we're going to need this tomorrow. So what we're going to do is we're going to stand and you tell them what you experience in your hands.
There's movement going that way.
Mm-hmm. And what else? It's not just going that way. What's that movement?
Expansion and contraction.
In the back, too.
Back to
It's going both ways, isn't it? So as I inhale, yeah. It's hard because
transceiver wasn't helping.
well, oh really, that makes a difference. But the thing that you can sense is that, yeah, that has to be able to expand too, doesn't it? It's harder because it's a hard shell back there with the sacrum and the spine. It's not so easy to move as a soft belly in front. But as I'm breathing both to the back and to the front. Now, I can get to the place where I just simply breathe to the front. And that certainly is going to be the case if I'm like that. Yeah? And I can be in a case where I can just make this. Not so easy to perceive, but most of it's in back. You agree?
Yeah, but I can see my hand.
Can you feel your hand moving? Okay. I have to see it to feel it?
I've got some sort of perception issue.
Well, we'll all play with that. So here's the invitation with a partner, and he has his hand around my navel and just above my sacrum. And the invitation is to, first of all, find the place of standing where you're not leaning forward, you're not leaning back, but that you can breathe in such a way that you can expand front and back. Yeah? And then you play with it. If you lean forward, the person can perceive what happens, because as soon as I'm leaning forward, these muscles have to engage, don't they? Yes, of course. And if I lean back, I finally, yeah. If I collapse, and the collapse really means fall. I just fell, didn't I? My system has to stabilize itself. What happens to the freedom? What do I have to find in my feet? Where my feet are? How I have the support through both legs so that I have this global sense of, okay? So with a partner, you go play for a few moments, okay? All right?